All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Living the Dream podcast. Today on the show, we have Emily Sander, who is a C-suite executive and founder of Next Level Coaching. Emily, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. And we'd like to jump right in. So if you could start with telling us a little bit more about yourself and what you like to do for fun, that'd be great.
Ooh, yeah. Let's see. I'm from Seattle and I live in Florida now, but I'm just back in Seattle visiting family. And for fun, I'm into fitness. So I like to get my workout in at the gym. Walking outside is nice, easier in Florida than Seattle. And I just started swimming, so we'll see how that goes. But that's fitnessy. And then I also like movies. So just recently watched Top Gun 2 and Doctor Strange 2. So those were good ones to see back in theaters, and just love a good story and good storytelling and characters and everything like that. So fitness and movies, that's what I do for fun.
There we go. Fitness and movies. I love it. That honestly is enough to fill your plate. Well, tell us about, so it says you're a C-suite executive and you're a founder of Next Level Coaching. So tell us a bit about both of those.
Sure. So I've spent 15 plus years in the business world and various roles there, leading teams and scaling teams globally. And I'm currently a chief of staff at a digital marketing firm. And then I'm also an executive coach, so an ICF-Certified Executive Coach. I am privileged and blessed to work with business leaders from all around the world on different aspects of their leadership. And so that's where that comes in.
Gotcha. And where do you see the number one problem or thing that needs to be solved when people come to you for executive coaching?
That is a large question, but I'll answer it in a few ways. So a lot of people come to me with like one specific issue, let's say interpersonal communication, you're having to communicate with your team, with vendors, with clients, et cetera. So how do I improve that? And then that'll usually expand or maybe go in a different direction during the course of the engagement. Sometimes it's very specific, like, hey, Emily, I have an interview next Tuesday at 3. Can you help me prep for it? And that's kind of more finite and concrete, the scope of that. And then something like communication, or hey, I want to go from an operational person to more of a strategic thinker or strategic leader. How do I do that? Are some of my longer engagements. The longest engagement I've had is with a client for 3+ years now. And she has gone from a senior manager all the way to a VP level. And so working with her throughout her career advancement and transitions into new roles and actually a new company, and getting her from like, I'm a doer to I'm a leader. And that involves, all sorts of, mindset shifts, communication pieces, where she spends her time management, all of those aspects, interpersonal kind of personnel issues and things like that. So I love helping leaders with that type of thing. And if it is just a one-off engagement for, hey, I have, a week to prep for this, can you give me a crash course? Then I do that as well.
There we go. That sounds awesome and like a fun time. So how long have you been doing Next Level Coaching, and what made you want to do it?
Yeah, so I've officially been a coach for about 4 or 5 years now. And I always say I was coaching before I knew what a coach was. So as a leader of a team, you bring several elements of coaching into that. And so I was working with my team members or my colleagues, or sometimes even managing up to my boss using coaching aspects. And then once I found out like, hey, coaching is a thing, and got the proper training for it, that just accelerated that side of it. But yeah, I would say I've officially been a coach for 5 years. And then I've been coaching for, probably a decade plus on some of the roles I've had.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that one. I am not even like a officially trained certified coach or anything, and I have lifestyle and passion coach in my LinkedIn, and that's what I like to call myself, because man, I really love helping people do exactly what I'm trying to do with you on this podcast, like identify dreams and goals, meet the person who's going to take you to the next level, and just grind it out and go after it and really make a bet on yourself. I love selling people on themselves. I think it's the best thing to sell. So yeah. That's what I love. But I'm right there with you on the been doing it your whole life. even though my life has been a short one.
A short but important one.
Yes.
A short but an impactful one.
Exactly. Well, awesome. Let's go ahead and jump into your motivation. What gets you up and keeps you going every day?
I love coaching. It's my passion. It's my calling. I feel like that's where I'm in flow. So you talk about flow state and things just like go smoothly. And, I feel that ties into my larger vision of purpose and fulfillment, which is, I believe that we need to put good into the world. So there's, 100,000 different ways to do that, right? But I believe our job is to put a little bit of good in the world and help each other out. And so coaching is my small way of doing that. And I think if everyone found their area of strength or what, lights them on fire and what they're passionate about and went after it, like you were saying, if everyone in the world was doing that, the world would just be a better place. And if people were having a servant attitude and a servant mentality, servant leadership, and how can I help someone out, that the world would just be a better place. So coaching is my sliver in my sliver of doing that in the universe. So that's what motivates me. I love when I wake up in the morning and I'm excited and enthusiastic about what I have on the agenda for that day. And I love going to sleep and saying, oh, like I made a difference in my small way. I made a meaningful impact and a positive impact on my clients or the people that I was working with. So that's motivating to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Making a positive impact on the people you're working with, putting good into the world, and all of that does happen with coaching. So I love that. Well, let's go ahead and jump into your dreams and goals, the main event. Tell us about your vision for your life and your company going forward.
Yeah, so I definitely, want to move into coaching full time, and I'm building my way up to be able to do that. And I think I've been doing that on the side and building things up as I have free time. But there comes a tipping point where you got to go all in, chips all in, as they say, and jump in with both feet. And, that comes with it excitement and exhilaration, and also a bit of, I'm terrified.
Yep.
So you got to take that gut load of risk at some point. But that's my dream. And I'm going to make that happen here. Actually, I'm transitioning into that now in the next few weeks and months. So that's exciting. And just being able to do it. And one, I think, irrespective of the result, so if it goes well or not, just being the kind of person who does that and says, hey, I'm going to invest in myself. I'm going to bet on myself and take a risk on myself and give it all I have and burn the boats, go all in. I think that in itself is key and is going to help me define myself as a person and help me as a coach. And it's one of those things that I really want to do. I feel like I have myself set up for success and that it can be a successful venture at the end, meaning the business will do well and be successful and viable to support me. But that's my dream. And I think people's definition of success is different for each person. And my definition of success is being able to add value in the way that I want. And so you can add value in whatever you're doing. If you have a job you don't particularly care for, you can still add value in that job. But success to me is being able to add value in the way that you want. And coaching, as we talked about, is my way. So that's my big dream on the horizon.
There we go. And it's happening within the next few weeks, few months. So like, do you have on that or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just, making sure that I leave people in a good spot and I tie up all the loose ends and transition everything well. But it's in motion now, and everyone's in favor of it and super supportive. So it's happening, and it's going to be interesting when I wake up and I'm like, oh, what do I do today? It's up to me. I'm my own boss, and I have to structure it and do all those things myself. So yeah, very near horizon.
That's fantastic. So what does success look like for you as a full-time coach? Like, what does your day look like? If you are comfortable sharing income with us, what does your income look like? Let us know.
Yeah, I mean, I think being your own boss and being a solopreneur, you have to set up the structure that's going to work best for you. And so in my mind, there's probably two big buckets and maybe some sub buckets within those. The two big buckets are coaching itself, so a coaching session with a client. And then the other bucket is the business aspects, so working on the business of coaching. So I think within the first one, obviously, if I'm in session with a client, just being 100% present for them, making sure all of my energy and attention and focus is on their goal for the session and then their overall goal for the engagement. And then I think a sub part of that is making sure I'm always upping my game as a coach. So how am I becoming a better coach? And whether that's, workshops or webinars or different programs that I'm doing to enhance myself for the art or the craft of coaching, that kind of falls into the first bucket. And then the second one, as you well know, is huge. There's just all the admin pieces that you have to go through, and working on my website and signing up for podcasts like this one and getting out on social media,
marketing.
Yeah, marketing, all of those things, basically getting the message out there. So that's kind of how I see breaking it up and how that falls into exact, what I do on Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays and in the mornings or afternoon. I'm honestly not sure, but I think, for me in other roles, it's been, I have natural energy at certain times of the day or certain points in the week. So figuring that out, I think everyone has a natural kind of clock that they work best on. So I work with my clients on finding their green zone, which is where they just, are best. Mine is in the mid-morning to early afternoon. So if I have a choice, sometimes you don't, but if I have a choice, I'll pick kind of a special project to put in that time block because I'm at my best. So I'll work with that within my new calendar, a new structure to set it up.
There we go. I love it. And so we got the coaching side, and then you got kind of the business aspect, which kind of boils down to sales, marketing, admin stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of coaches, a lot of people, a lot of solopreneurs, a lot of business owners, every business basically, when it comes down to it, it's like you gotta get the leads and make the sales. So are you confident in your plan to do that going forward? Or is that somewhere it's that's kind of the leap too?
No, I mean, so working for a digital marketing agency, I was in the background of that, but I know enough to be dangerous. So, for me, what the mentality that I have to take to be most successful is in the sales and marketing, you're actually overlapping those two buckets, or if it's a Venn diagram, overlapping. So when I'm on an intro call, which I do offer people like a complimentary 30-minute intro call just to get to know each other. At the beginning, I used to put a whole bunch of pressure on myself, like, oh my God, like my heart would beat. And this is like make it or break it. And you have to make your number. And this could, be a client or not a new client. And now I honestly just see it as a coaching session. Let me get to know this person. Let me apply some coaching if there's an opportunity. Let me just ask questions. They're going to ask about me and my coaching style, which is absolutely, valid and understandable. And it's just a conversation. So I think approaching it like that, I've had a lot of success with that. It makes my life a lot easier. It just makes me calmer going into each one of those. And I can tell, just from people's faces and voices that they get more out of that time with me. So that's how I've done it. But yeah, there's, web leads that come in. I've just gotten business accounts on social, so LinkedIn and Twitter, and those are rocking and rolling. And then honestly, the biggest thing is I'm on podcasts. I have a book out, so things come in from there. Honestly, my biggest one is referrals, which is the greatest kind anyway, because they've heard it from someone they trust, and so they're getting kind of a shoe in. So that's my biggest one for now, which is exactly how I would want it. And then the other channels are building up slowly. Sometimes the social, we just got that going this year, so it takes time just to get traction on it. But send all of those nets and all of those channels out there, and then stuff will start trickling and then roaring back in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm right there with you. And before we move on to any other dreams or goals that you have, is this something you're looking to scale, where it's like employees, hire other coaches, really build it big, and then eventually exit on a sale one day? Or are you trying to just kind of have it maintain your lifestyle and kind of keep it right there?
Yeah, I mean, for the back half of 2022, it's just to maintain lifestyle and get clients that are in my target group. And then, yeah, I've done the 3-year and 5-year roadmap and stretch goals and things like that. And it does involve building passive income streams. And I have free downloadable content on my site now, which are fantastic and I love doing. And then eventually that'll grow and expand into, online courses and signature programs and things like this. So I also just heard, I was listening to a podcast, And I have a book out now, but I heard about this concept called a shook, which is a short book. And so it's 100 pages or less, and it's just an ebook. And this person was talking about how you can build those up. And I have blogs and such. And he's like, you can combine, 6 months or a year's worth of blogs and just do the takeaways. You can take a topic that you know a lot about and just like expand. So it's not quite a full length book, but it's not quite just a blog article. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I think shooks are in my future at some point. But certainly building up passive income streams is probably phase 2. And then phase 3 and 4 would be bringing on different coaches and building that ecosystem out as well.
There we go. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. Well, are there any other dreams or goals that you want to talk about?
Ooh, that's the big one on my mind, to be honest. Just getting the business up and running and launched has been a lot of my time and energy. Of course, there's just being the type of person you want to be. I think that deserves a shout out to anyone listening. Take an inventory of, sure, what are your career goals and what are your dreams there, but also what type of person do you want to be? And so I want to be, making a meaningful impact to my family, and my friends, and just being a person of integrity and being a person of service and contributing. We live in a kind of a me-centric world at some times, where like, what is in it for me, and what can I get out of this? And if I give you this, what will you give me? And that's part of life to some extent. But I think there's also a grounding and an anchoring in, hey, I know who I am. I know who I'm about. The universal law is that you get what you give away. And so I think reminding myself of that and keeping myself grounded in that, especially as I go into this new venture where, to be honest, it's real easy to get sucked into like, here's, the funnels, and here's how you make $1 million in 12 months. And here's how you go after all these things. Yes, I want to be successful. And yes, that includes financial success, but I'm not going to do it at the cost of, who I am as a person and forfeiting, what that's about. So I think my dream is to career-wise build this business and go after it. I'm going to go after it hard. And then equally, if not more importantly, is maintaining or retaining the person that I am while I'm doing that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that. Holding integrity and service as a priority and getting out of that me-centric, like letting go of the ego, all that stuff is so good. And it's really hard to do, actually, as you get into entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Because there are ways to like make money that you learn where it's like, wow, I could actually do that, and it would accelerate things, but I would lose a part of me. And so I think it's important and good that you are holding that as a priority. An example that is popping into my head is like with the coaching services. So I've been trying to build out a coaching thing for this podcast to be like the back end business of the podcast for, I don't know, like 6 months now.
Yeah.
And I started really high ticket, and it bugged me because the person I wanted to target couldn't afford a high ticket thing. And so I was like, so am I just going to target somebody else and then charge them high ticket so I can make my 6 figures a year like sooner? And I tried it. I started doing the prospecting, and it was killing me. I was like, okay, I can't do this. I'd rather make $5,000 a month and serve and impact who I want to serve and impact than make $50,000 a month and kind of serve and impact somebody who my heart doesn't like.
Yeah.
For, And so it was something that
good for you. Yeah, no, good for you. It'll come back in your favor, believe me. Yeah. So.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. Plus, not everything has to be high ticket for you to be wealthy. Like Facebook makes $2.50 off of each of us, and Facebook is a big company.
They do all right.
Awesome. So we got moving into coaching full time and making a meaningful impact to family and friends, holding integrity and service as a priority in your life. Are there any other things you want to talk about before we jump ahead?
Ooh. Those are the big ones, honestly. I think thanks for that replay. You actually captured and summarized what I said very better than I said it. So thank you.
Of course. All right. So next question is, if there were 1 or 2 people that you could meet in this world, and this could be a type of person or a specific person, and they would help you take the next step towards your highest priority dreams and goals, so coaching full time and making that impact that you want to make, who would they be and how would they do it? And I want you to keep in mind, this relationship should be more like a friendship or a business partnership than a Oprah Winfrey. It can be an Oprah Winfrey, but we want to be able to actually make the connection. I want you to be able to call this person tomorrow and be like, let's do this thing.
Okay, got it. The person who springs to mind is Greg McKeown, the author of the book Essentialism. And that is one of my all-time favorite books. And it's one of my ones I recommend to business leaders. And he actually has a new one out that I haven't read yet, but I really want to. But Essentialism is the one that just, I read it. And as I was reading it, I was like, this is blowing my mind. And after I got done, I was like, this is a book that I will come back to over and over again. And so, one of his big concepts, if people aren't familiar, is where you spend your time and energy. And there's this famous graph he has, which is a circle, and then he has 12 arrows going out of the circle in different directions. And the 12 arrows are the different things that you're spending your time and energy on. And they only go so far. And then he says, if you pick one thing and spend your energy on that, you will go this far. And it has one big arrow going a lot longer than the different 12. And there's a whole bunch more in that book. It's a lot more than time management, but it's a philosophy and kind of an ethos and how you approach the world and approach your tasks. But I would love to have him on speed dial or, phone a friend number. I think he would be a great resource just to be a good soundboard for ideas and also launching businesses. And he's obviously done well for himself, but not in an overly kind of gregarious, salesy type of way. He's just, here's some frameworks that you can use to set yourself up well. And I think that's huge anytime, but especially as you're launching a new business. What are the frameworks and what are the blueprints that I need to apply in different ways to get to where I need to go? So Greg McKeown for sure.
Yeah, there we go. And what is the most important one or two things that everyday people can do to help you accomplish your goals? Not them accomplish their goals, but you accomplish your goals.
Ooh, that's a tough question. Usually it's the other way around. How can I help them accomplish theirs?
A lot of times people answer it like it's the other way around, and then I'm like, I'll just let it
go. let me think about this so I can answer it the right way. Honestly, what's coming to mind is investing in themselves. And I know that sounds like woo-woo-y, but I think if everyone invested in themselves, the world will be a better place. And then if they run into me, it'll benefit me. And obviously, one slice in there is coaching, and I advocate coaching to everyone. I'd be thrilled and it'd be fantastic if you wanted to reach out to me and see how we could work together. But if, just coaching in general, I would highly encourage people to get a coach, great resource, great experience. And then read, listen to podcasts, learn. You should learn something new every single day, and you should get, a tiny bit better every single day. So investing in yourself. I have a book, you've got stuff on your end. So just take all that knowledge and get yourself to be a little bit better. I do this myself, of course. I have a team of coaches that I work with, and I read all the time and listen to podcasts all the time. And just to get it off of my list, so to speak, every day, I have Merriam-Webster's Word of the Day email come to me. So literally it's one of the first emails I get when I check my iPhone. I'm like, all right, I've already learned something new each day. And that kind of cascades into larger things throughout the day. But that's just a reminder of, learn and grow and improve and work on yourself and invest in yourself. That's what I would say to anyone. And I think you can invest your time and your energy and your money into a lot of things. And some people are hesitant to spend money on themselves. Like, hey, that's pretty selfish of me to do that for myself, take a weekend course or whatnot. I'm like, no. That is the best thing you can do. And it'll reap dividends for you and the people around you if you continually do that. So invest in yourself would be what you can do for me.
I love it. Even after I clarify the question, a lot of times that's still the answer. So usually when people answer it the other way, it still works out. But
yeah.
No, I love that. And a little side note, you said a lot of people see it as selfish to invest in themselves or like buy a course or whatever it may be. It's actually selfish not to, because you're not living up to your best potential, and that then cripples your ability to help serve and impact the people around you. So go spend that money on that course that you need.
For sure. Yeah. And I equate it to like self-care. People go, oh, self-care, that's so soft. I'm like, no, Like, understand that your decisions are better, your interactions with other people are better. You just become a better person when you are rested and set yourself up in good positions. So everyone's like, what's this hack and what can I add and what little app can I add on my phone to be more productive? And I'm honestly like, you know what? If you slept for half an hour more or an hour more, you're probably going to be a better person the next day. I heard this, I'm into fitness, as we talked about, and I heard this podcast and they were like, if I told you about a supplement that could, boost your mental capacity and boost your, gains at the gym and boost your metabolism and boost your all this stuff. And everyone was like, yeah. What is that? And they're like, it's sleep. And they just stopped. And I was like, oh my gosh, if sleep was a supplement, everyone would be taking it. Everyone would be taking it
Oh yeah.
because it just makes you better. So that's always how I think of sleep and self-care. Like, yeah, if that was a supplement and you could market it, everyone would be buying it.
Oh yeah. For sure. No, I'm right there with you. Sleep, it's there's this study, like when daylight savings times happens, and I think once a year we like lose an hour.
Yeah.
I think car accidents go up by like 30%, heart attacks go up by like 30% that day, where it's like, honestly, we should probably cancel daylight savings time because of that.
Or something, yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Well, now we're gonna jump into our thriving three. And the first
Okay.
question is favorite book, movie, or podcast? Pick one.
Ooh, that's a hard question. I'm going to go with the podcast, besides yours, of course. The podcast, How Did This Get Made? How Did This Get Made is it's about bad movies. And they have three hosts talking about like, how did this get made? And it's a comedy podcast. And I have lots of like self-help books and developmental books that I could throw out there. But honestly, sometimes you just need to like lighten the mood and make yourself laugh and give yourself perspective on all the serious and hard work and grind you're doing. And so How Did This Get Made is my go-to, like, hey, I just need to like give myself a little bit of fun time. And it just makes you laugh out loud and it makes you smile and it makes you happy. And there's three hosts who are hilarious and they just kind of take movies that aren't great and they break down how they're not great and how did this get made. So that's what I'd recommend.
Love it. Love it. How did this get made? And what is one way you like to take care of yourself?
Talked about self-care. So gym, walks, movies, active rest. So people, I don't know your audience, if they're big fitness people, but you know that if you're trying to make gains in the gym, like build muscle, you have different phases of that. So you have phases where you're trying to, push it in the gym and go to your, one max rep and all these things and like go hard at the gym. And then there's other phases where you actually want to take an active rest or a deload. And so that's where your body recovers and actually builds the muscle and it gets you ready and primes you for the next phase where you are working hard and pushing it again. And so one way that I take care of myself is I will build those active rest periods or those deloads into my schedule or into my program. And that's for fitness and then also just for life in general. So there's a time and a place, like push yourself and stretch yourself and go to failure and all these things. And then there is a time where you should maintain and intentionally and proactively take it easy, knowing that that's part of where you get your greatest gains and you set yourself up to go again. And that's how you continually improve instead of just burning all the engines, going on fumes and then burning out.
Yep. I completely agree. That is a lesson I learned. I'm still a young guy, I know, but I try to move quick in what I do. And in college, there were plenty of times where I was like, oh, I'm doing this. And I went hard at it for like 3-4 weeks, 2 months. And then either A, needed more marketing budget, longer time, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, oh, I'll make money in a month. I'll make money in 2 months. So it'll be fine. And I'll reinvest it. And it didn't work out. And so sometimes that stability, like you need the stability to allow yourself to grow.
You can burn through things pretty quickly. And I think there is a time for like rise and grind. Like, don't get me wrong. There's a time where like you need to be disciplined. You need just to get off your butt and freaking do it and start. But there is a time, I remember my personal trainer a few years ago said, Emily, your job is to stay in the game. And I said, like, what do you mean? And he's like, if you get injured, like you can't train hard when you're injured. You have to recover and take all that time and you'll lose those weeks that you'll have to then make up. Your job is to stay in the game. So push yourself hard, but also set up periods where you let yourself recover. And that's where you, for guys who are trying to gain. Like that's where your muscles actually get bigger, like the repair, and they get bigger and stronger. And then you go to your next phase. And when you lift more weight at the gym, it's actually an expression of how strong you are and how big your muscles have gotten. So there's just a psychology about that. I always remember he was like, your job is to stay in the game. So your job is to push yourself, but not so far you're going to injure yourself, which takes you out of the game. And then you lose a whole bunch of time and progress. So such is the gym, such is life.
Such is life. Yep. There we go. And what is one action step you can take right now or continue to take if you're already doing it to meet Greg? What's his last name?
Mckeown. Yeah.
Mckeown.
What's one step I can take to meet him?
One action step you can take to meet him and have him as a mentor, sounding board for ideas.
Yeah. I do mention him. I give him a really big call out in my book. And, maybe if I wrote a blog about him or something, and then as I get my social media up, kind of tag him and just say hi and just get on his radar. And then hopefully he'll see me over and over again. And I can exchange, kind of information and go from there. But I follow him and hopefully I'll get known enough and brand awareness and all these things that I might get on his radar and be able to reach out.
You should gift him your book.
Oh, that's a good one too. And say like, here, page is where I.
But you should do it giftology style.
Ooh.
And that's another book. It's like 2 hours if you listen to it. But he has a really special way that he sent a book to somebody. It might have been Gary Vee or Tony Robbins or something like that. And got them an intro, and now they like work together, or they worked together.
That's a fantastic suggestion. I don't know why I didn't think of that, but that's why we do these things. So I'm gonna write that down.
Absolutely.
Gift book. Boom.
I'll request you $200 for that. No,
that's my fee.
Totally kidding. Awesome. Well, now we're gonna jump into our last series of questions, and most of them are gonna require some pretext. So stick with me.
Okay.
So a lot of people have come on the podcast and they've said that the catalyst that helps people change from having a fixed mindset, not willing to accept help and not willing to accept change, to having a growth mindset, being willing to accept help and being willing to accept change. The catalyst has been a personal choice that happens after either extreme inspiration or desperation. First question is, do you agree? Do you disagree? Have anything to add or subtract to that?
I agree.
Yep. Cool.
100%. Like, yeah, that's just the answer. I agree. 100%.
I asked a lot of people that, and that's like the summary statement that I kind of came up with. People kind of add to it and subtract to it, but it's typically in a form of inspiration or a form of desperation.
Yeah, I think, for me, like you can, I've had moments of desperation, which I've kind of transformed and made into inspiration. So I had like a lot of self-doubt early on and just, very, very self-critical, just to the point of like, Emily, like you're just, self-flagellating, and to the point of, let me change that. That's a whole bunch of energy, right? Going out to the world or into myself, and let me change where that energy is going and make it positive and generative. So it's generating something positive instead of just like imploding on myself. So I think, I struggled with that for a long, long time. I still, run into it today, and I know what it is, and I know how to overcome it now. But yeah, that was a very destructive thing, and now it's an inspirational thing because I thought that it would always be there. And I'm talking like crippling, just like self-doubt and not being able to speak on presentations, not being able to get my message or my voice to come across in the way that I intended it. And I thought that was just how I was, and I'd always been like that. So I was always going to be like that, and I would have to work around it. But it's something now that once you see that initial toehold of progress, we're like, wait a minute, I did a tiny bit better than last time. And like, is that a one-off fluke? Like, let me try it again. Like, oh no, that's a tiny bit better than the time before. And you just keep adding up those small steps and those baby steps. And then over weeks and months and years, you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, something that worried me to death 5 years ago, I can do like that. I can jump on a podcast like that. I can, talk to anyone I need to like that. And that's just something that literally, if you would have spoken to me 10, 15, 20 years ago, you would be speaking to a different person. And a lot of people, maybe not you yet, but because you're not old enough, but give yourself time, you will look back, and as well as you're doing now, which is amazing, by the way, as well as you're doing now, in 5, 10, 15 years, you're going to look back and be like, that was child's play. Like, I'm at such a higher level now, and I'm able to do things that I didn't even think were possible. So I think for me, just that initial piece of progress you can point to in the world and say, like, oh, like that is a tiny bit better than last time. If you keep building on that, that just flips, it gives yourself evidence that, oh my gosh, I have moved from a fixed mindset into a growth mindset. Maybe I can improve. And by the way, they've done brain science on this. When you see that, and when you start to believe that, or even say that could be a possibility, maybe I don't believe it, but it's possible, your brain will start looking for evidence to confirm that. And so all the experiences and all the events you have will go to confirming what you put out there. So instead of saying, oh, like, Emily, you're not a good communicator and you don't do well with people, everything that I would experience would be confirming that. Instead, if I go, wait, I got a little bit better at that, maybe I can get way better over time. My brain went to work and said, let me give her evidence that this is true. So I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I think for the longest time I was pretty skeptical of like the law of attraction and all the woo-woo stuff. But one, it's objectively true. Like whether you believe it or not, like it's happening in your life. That's the first thing we kind of want to establish. But two, in psychology, it's just called confirmation bias, which is exactly what you just described. It's like we look for evidence to affirm the beliefs we already have.
Yep.
And that's why it's always so hard to break out of those beliefs or see that you're wrong, because you're only looking for stuff that says you're right.
And I will, just one quick thing too. I felt badly for a long time because I didn't see any progress and I was trying to improve. So one thing, if people are going through that, there's the analogy of like swinging a sledgehammer into a big rock, and like 1,000 times you do it and like nothing happens. And then on the 1,000th swing, the rock shatters and crumbles. And it's because each swing you did was putting a tiny little crack in that rock, and you couldn't see it because it was on the inside of the rock. But on that final swing, it just bursts open. And so I've had the experience where like I'm trying, I'm reading all the books, like I'm doing all the things you're supposed to do, and nothing is happening, and it's infuriating. But if you keep going and understand that's part of the process, there will be that eventual tipping point where you can see something, and then it'll just kind of dissolve, and you're like, oh, this is amazing. So yeah. I would give people that note too, because that really was discouraging for me. And now I'm like, nope, I know where I am in the process. And if you just keep going, it'll work for you.
It'll work. Yep. There we go. Well, our next question is, why do you think some people make the choice to change and then others don't?
Multiple answers to that. One is some people don't know that they can change. So they have a fixed mindset where it's like, oh, like this is how I am, so I'm always going to be like this. And they just are complacent and hold still. Two is they don't know how. So I want to change, but I don't know how to go about that. So again, learn, get out there, listen to books, read books, listen to Tim. And then three, probably the third most common one is they're scared of failing / scared of what other people will think. So, hey, I want to change. I know how to change, but it's putting myself out there. And that's scary and unknown and uncertain, and I might fall on my face and look like a fool in front of everybody, so I'm not going to do it. So I don't think those are the three big reasons that I have come across personally, and then that I come across multiple times in different iterations and variations with my coaching clients.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I don't know if this would change your answer, but I'm actually supposed to add after the same extreme inspiration or desperation. Like you give the same extreme inspiration or desperation to a person, and some will change, some won't. Why is that? I don't know if it'll change your answer, but I figured I'd correct it.
I think if the pain is big enough, where it's like, okay, it propels you to change, certainly. So if you have a huge event that like, this is so painful that I'm going to change, or something is so inspirational, so it might change my answer a little bit. It would be the degree to which something is desperate or something is inspirational. It has to be. Humans like homeostasis, and we like things to be the same. We do not like things to be uncertain. We don't like things to be unknown. So for us to take that leap, it has to be a really big event in either direction. So pain or pleasure, you actually have to be running from it or going towards something. It has to be a big thing for you. But again, as we've kind of hinted at and talked about in this podcast, putting yourself out there, making incremental steps. One of my favorite mottos that my dad used to say to me is small wins add up faster than you think. And so if you just take those baby steps and put things in play day in and day out, they will add up. So I would encourage anyone, small wins add up faster than you think. So start today.
There we go. There we go. And so kind of speaking of that, the degree to how inspiring or how, I can't think
Desperate.
of the word for it. Yeah, how desperate the situation makes you. I was about to say dispiriting, but I was like, no, that ain't it. Going along that line of thought, some people need a small amount of desperation or inspiration to change, and others need a larger, more consistent amount. What do you think establishes that breaking point, that threshold for people? And can it be influenced by other people, by outside things?
Those are good questions. What comes to mind is nature versus nurture, or nature and nurture, they work together. So I do believe that some people just have a makeup where, they're more of a risk taker, or they're more risk averse. And I think there's something like in that, but a whole bunch is the environment that you grew up in and the parents and friends and teachers that influence you, especially at a young age, to make you. So if, for instance, if you're in an environment where you're going to go out on a limb and try something new that no one in your family or your circle of friends has ever done, and that group is going to be like, no, like, how can you do that? Like, that's a horrible idea. You're going to fall on your face. Well, that's probably going to detract some people from doing that. Whereas if you had family and friends who are like, yes, like, no one has gone to college, but, you're going to be the first one, and you're going to break barriers, and you're going to, go out in the world and make something of yourself. Well, of course, that's going to have a different impact on someone. So I think, to me, there is a nature and a nurture piece. And I don't know the percentage breakdown of those. I think it's different for everyone, but certainly there's an element of what environment that you're in. And we can't choose that when we're kids, but we can choose that when we're adults or even young adults. So I would, anyone who's listening, take inventory of who you have around you and what environments are you spending your time in. And basically, what information are you feeding into your brain every day? And that can be from, social media, news, what you consume, what you watch, what you listen to, who you hang around, because those will have a huge impact on what it takes for you to change for the better.
I feel that. I'm not a scientist, guys. I do have my.
I'm not a doctor, but that's what
I do have my bachelor in psychology, so take that for what it means. But nature versus nurture, I think that's a great answer. I'm going to go 99% nurture, though. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't like chalking stuff up to nature. I think you can change. So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
There's like a huge, not to keep going back to bodybuilding, because I'm not a bodybuilder. I love fitness and I love learning about it. But they say, like, people who go, oh, I can't get to the next level of bodybuilding because of my genetics is total BS. So they say, like, you can overcome. I mean, like, yes, there's like your muscle structure and like your insertion points and all this stuff, but they're like, that's BS. If you really, really want it, then you go after it and you work hard and bring up your weaknesses, etc. But yeah, so I think there is something to be considered with like what you're given and how you're made up, but then a lot of it is, the environment you're in, the environment you put yourself in, and where you want to go.
There we go. And our last question for you: in Atomic Habits, James Clear talks about the 4 laws of changing your behavior. And his laws are to make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying. With that context in mind, how can we create an environment that makes it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying for people to make the choice that will change their life?
Whew. These are good questions. First of all, you're going to have to remind me of the 4 things as we go along. But the first one, I would get clarity on your goal. So you can't set up a process towards something if you don't know where you're trying to go. And it's like akin to if you're climbing up a wall and putting a ladder up. If you put it on the wrong wall, then you're going to be like, oh, I made it to the top and now I'm in the wrong spot. So I would get clarity, and whether that's journaling or talking to a friend or a mentor or a coach, getting clear on your goals and where you want to go. And that can be a general direction. It doesn't have to be like, I want to be a senior vice president for this company in 5 years. It can be a general direction. And then what was the second one? Make it easy?
Make it attractive.
Make it attractive. Okay. So I would say, why do you want to go after that? So if you say, oh, success to me is this amount of money. Okay. What makes that important to you? Or success for me is freedom in my schedule. Okay, what about that is important? So you can articulate that to yourself and to other people. And basically, what is the meaning behind that? And one of the things that I catch in coaching sometimes is people will say, I want this goal, and they sound a little bit odd when they say it. And I go, whose voice is that telling you you want that? And they go, oh, my parents or society or my friends. So know the direction you're going in, step one, and then know why it's important and meaningful to you. And then what's step three? Does that make it easy?
Yes.
Okay, so this is where like your process and the structure you build comes into play. So I'm trying to think, like an easy example is like, oh, if you want to become a runner or walk more, something you can do that's easy is go set out your running shoes and go set out your like workout clothes by the door or wherever you keep them. So you just make it that much easier to get up in the morning and go for a walk, or get up in the morning and go to the gym. So set up your process and set up your structure and day so it's easy to accomplish those process goals that will lead up to your overall goal. And then what's the fourth one?
Satisfying.
Satisfying. So I would say when you hit certain milestones within your process goals, and so like let's say you have like a long-term goal, 5 years, you can't wait for the 5 years. You're going to have to give yourself little milestone in there and celebrate. So hey, when I hit this first milestone, what am I going to do to celebrate? And that can be like taking myself out for a nice dinner, or I'm going to buy myself like a nice top or whatever, or I'm going to do a little long weekend getaway to this place that I've always wanted to go. I would set those little celebrations for your process wins within that. So it's satisfying that you're accomplishing these things and you don't get sucked into just let me put my blinders on and nose to the grindstone and not see the light of day for 5 years. Let me say, no, I am going after what I want and I'm making progress on it, and that's satisfying. And then I'm going to throw in some celebratory moments as well.
Yeah. There we go. I love that. And so those are things that people like can do to make the choice easier in their life, or easier, obvious, satisfying, attractive. But how can we, as like that person's friend, that person's sister, brother, parent, spouse, create an environment that makes those things possible? Does that make sense?
I think so. So if I'm a friend and someone's going after a goal, how do I make those things obvious and easy?
Yeah, because some environments can add to you deciding to make the change, and then some environments can take away from you deciding to make the change. How do we create that environment that adds to them making the change in their life?
Yeah,
maybe that's how I should ask the question.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, maybe I totally went off on a tangent. That wasn't the right one. But to me, I mean, not to get super philosophical, but to me, the definition of love is willing the good of another as other and doing something about it. So I'll break that down. So, willing the good of another, that's pretty obvious, right? I want what's good for you. As other though. So like, I'm not trying to make you like me. I'm not trying to make you something you're not. I'm whatever you want to be is fine. And then doing something about it. So not just having happy thoughts in my head. That's great. And we all should do that, but then doing something about it. So maybe verbalizing encouragement, or, like, let me drive you to the class, or let me, pick you up when you're down, or if you need an accountability partner, anything like this, putting those things out into the world in action. So that would be my definition. Just, be there for someone and be supportive.
Love it. I love it.
Nice. There we go. We can go with that. We can go with that version.
No, that's fantastic. Well, awesome. Emily, do you have anything else you want to chat about before we sign off?
Oh, we've covered a lot. This was a really good podcast. Yeah, I get all sorts of questions being on different podcasts, but these were really good ones. They were thoughtful and not just like short little clipped answers. So I thought or clipped questions. I thought we covered a lot of ground. What else do I want to get out there? I think you can change. So we all have a growth mindset. So whether you think you do or not, you do. And so you can change your life for the positive. And I would encourage you to hold on to that belief and take action on it. And I think just, we're all going through this world. We all have challenges. We all stumble and fall. So just help each other out. I mean, that's what we're here for. And so as you go off throughout your day, I wake up and say, what's my assignment day? What that could be opening a door for someone, that could be giving someone a smile, or it could be something big where it's like, oh my gosh, something happened with my friend. Here is my chance to step up. This is my assignment for the day. So I would just go out and actively look for those opportunities, and people's lives will change and your life will change for the better. So just help each other out.
There we go. Well, awesome. Emily, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And if you guys are listening to this and you loved what Emily had to say, make sure to check her out. She has a book that she has written, so you can buy that book. You can share that. Also refer coaching clients to her. Also be a coaching client for her if that's something you're interested in. As we always ask, shoot this podcast to 1 to 3 people you know need to hear this message. Give us a 5-star review on iTunes, and we're out.